if you take your hands right now and place them on your skull, you're going to feel all these ridges and cracks in your skull, right? Those are sutures. And if your hands are clean, you can also place a thumb inside the upper palate of your mouth, and you're going to feel a little crack in that upper palate.
Yeah.
That's also a suture.
Okay.
So at almost any time in our life, we can expand that suture. And this is something people don't get. They think that after 30, we cannot build and model bone in our body. We can heal bone, but we can't model new bone. But that is false. There's one bone that we can model. Guess where it is? It's right in the middle of our face. So I did an experiment in the book where I was talking to the expert who's been doing this for 30 years. And still, I was like, yeah, but this goes against any textbook that you pick up. It goes against anything I've ever learned. And he said, okay, well, why don't you wear this device? So it was a device that fit on the roof of my mouth, and I wore it at night, and it very gently spread apart that palate. I know that sounds dangerous, but this is what our bodies are doing all the time. This was just a little helping hand. And so by gently spreading apart that palate and by chewing, you're stimulating stem cells. By stimulating those stem cells, you are growing new bone. So my palate has expanded, and because of that, my breathing has greatly improved. And we have CAT scans of this.
Wow.
And I grew bone in my face. I'm well past 30, but I grew bone in my face. I grew about 5 pennies worth of bone in my face. And what he was saying, a lot of people are attracted to this because as we grow older, we lose bone, right? And that bone we're losing in our face means that the flesh in our face has nowhere to go but down, has less to glom onto. So if you're able to maintain that bone or even build it, you're able to, a lot of his clients want to look younger naturally, and this is how they're doing it. I don't get too much into the aesthetics in the book. I wasn't interested in it. I was interested in the breathing aspect and the airway aspect, and it all checks out.
Well, I mean, if there's an aesthetic aspect to it as well, then it's even more appealing, isn't it? What was that device? Is that something that's kind of commonly available?
There's tons of them out there. The one I used was a Homeoblock, but there's several out there, and there's a lot of procedures. You know what they're doing now is orthodontists are doing now is they're doing a very quick procedure in which they expand that palate over a number of weeks or a number of months, and they're using this for people who have airway problems, who have sleep apnea, who have snoring problems. It's really effective. What I found what's so interesting, which is why I called the book, The New Science of a Lost Art, is the first functional orthodontics 120, 30 years ago. They were designed to open up that palate to help breathing. That's how it started. For these kids who had cleft palate, they couldn't breathe, they couldn't chew, so they built this device to expand their mouths. They found, wow, if we can expand their mouths and make their breathing better, we can create a wider mouth to make teeth grow in straight. So these were the first orthodontics, and they completely went away in the 40s as we found a quicker and cheaper way of doing it, which is braces and headgear. And it's so interesting to me to think that, this 100-year-old technology is now having this enormous resurgence. So many orthodontists are pursuing this because they know the effects.